My name is Caroline Colas, and I am the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson, JCC Manhattan. Thank you so much for joining us on today's Lunch and Learn call, a partnership with the Whole Being Institute. Today we're discussing mindfulness and the power of awareness in positive psychology with Caren Osten. Bringing greater awareness to each moment of our days can help us craft a happier, more peaceful, and meaningful life. In this workshop, we will discuss the practice of mindfulness, the non-judgmental awareness of the present moment, and how tuning into the present can help us cultivate some of the most effective tools of positive psychology, such as gratitude, boosting positivity, self-compassion, and a knowledge of our strengths. Caren Osten is a certified positive psychology coach, writer, and mindfulness meditation teacher. She works with individuals and groups who seek to cultivate greater positivity, clarity, and calm as they navigate life's daily stresses, challenges, and shifts. Caren leads workshops at Kripalu and mindful meditation studios in New York City and speaks publicly, sharing the benefits, practices, and science of optimism, self-compassion, mindfulness, and resilience. A contributor to the New York Times, Psychology Today, Mindful Magazine, and others, Caren writes about health and well-being, travel, and education. She earned both her certificate in positive psychology, which is known as the SIP program, so she's a SIP graduate, and her certificate in positive psychology coaching from the Whole Being Institute. You can learn more about her work at her website, and I'll make sure to put that in the chat for you. Welcome to the call, Caren. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I'm really delighted to be here, and welcome to all of you. So before we begin, I'm going to invite you to take 3 centering breaths with me, just so that we can bring ourselves into the moment. So you can close your eyes if you feel comfortable, otherwise you can leave them open. And let's just inhale together through the nose and exhale out the mouth. And again, inhale and exhale. And one more, inhale and exhale. Wonderful. Okay, I am going to share my screen.
Before we do that, Caren, let me just ask you a question. How did you come to know about the Whole Being Institute?
That's a great question. I came to know about the Whole Being Institute through Kripalu. Having a home in the Berkshires, I am a frequent visitor to Kripalu. Now I can say I'm also visiting faculty, which is a wonderful thing that I'm very grateful for. And in my catalog that arrived in my door, I saw a page I opened to the Whole Being Institute's certification program, which was nearly a year of studying positive psychology with Tal Ben-Shahar and Maria Sarah, as you know, and Megan. And I was very, very interested in the mind-body connection, both personally and as a writer and journalist. I also felt that this could be something that I would like to write more about. So I decided to sign up for the certification, and at the end of the 11 months, I was not ready to separate. And I decided, well, I learned a little bit about positive psychology coaching while I was at the final immersion. And after listening to the spiel on positive psychology coaching, I said, I want to bring this out into the world, not only via the written word, also in face-to-face interactions. And so I went on to get my certification in positive psychology coaching, both through the Whole Being Institute. So I'm really proud of that.
That's amazing. I'm in the program right now. I don't know if you knew that. And I'm really having a great time. I think it's one of the best programs that I have ever experienced. So, and I understand, and I think that the SIP program enrollment for the next one, which probably will happen, I don't know when it happens actually, but it's going to be coming up. I don't know if it's 2021. Phoebe's on the call and she can let me know about that. But I highly recommend anybody considering that if they are. But today we're talking about mindfulness, which is your area of expertise. And so I know you have this amazing PowerPoint slideshow prepared for us. So why don't we just jump in? Share your screen.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, so. And there we go. So today we are going to talk about mindfulness and the power of awareness in positive psychology. So I am wondering if any of you have ever had the experience where you read a page, whether it was in a book or a newspaper or magazine, and you get to the bottom and you have no idea what you just read. Can anyone relate to that? Well, you are not alone. Harvard University did a study and found that nearly 47% of the time, we are not paying attention to what we're doing. So think about that. About half of our time is spent thinking about something other than what we're actually doing. Not only that, but those who were more distracted reported lower levels of happiness. So by regularly paying attention to what we're doing, a practice known as mindfulness, we can cultivate better awareness of the present moment and possibly be happier as a result. Mindfulness and meditation are in the news constantly and increasingly. In 2012, the National Institute of Health database had just over 500 scientific studies on mindfulness. Currently, the NIH database has close to 10,000 scientific studies on mindfulness. It is a huge, huge area of growth in research. Why mindfulness now? Why is mindfulness becoming a growing phenomenon? Well, basically, the answer is because we are living in an age where there's an epidemic of anxiety and depression. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States. And according to a recent survey done by the Census Bureau in partnership with the CDC, 30% of Americans are showing symptoms of anxiety, depression, or both. And if we want to bring it to current day, before the pandemic, 25% of adults experienced depressed moods. During the pandemic, that has jumped to 50%. So twice the number of Americans are experiencing depressed moods. What is going on? Well, external stimuli are pulling our attention in many different directions, and we are thus training our brains to be in a state of continual partial attention. As our interconnectivity grows as a result of technology and a 24-hour news cycle and the many hours that some of us spend on Zoom, we need to learn ways to manage our time and attention. We need an off switch. For many of us, this is what we look like. So what is mindfulness? I love this image because it has a human, and as the human's walking down the street, it's thinking, he or she is thinking about a million things. And then there's the dog who is simply looking at what is before him, what is happening in that moment. So mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and without judgment. That is the definition from Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. So mindfulness is simply being aware of what's happening as it's happening and accepting whatever it is that's happening. Like so many tools of positive psychology, this awareness of bringing our attention to the present moment in a particular way is something we can cultivate. This is Jon Kabat-Zinn. John Kabat-Zinn is a molecular biologist who studied Buddhist teachings, and in 1979, he created a stress reduction clinic at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, which eventually transformed into an 8-week program called MBSR, or Mindful-Based Stress Reduction. I have taken the 8-week MBSR class. It originally was given in hospitals and in healthcare workers. It is now offered at JCCs, at Ys, at churches, at local education institutions. Very, very interesting. So awareness itself is boundless, says John Kabat-Zinn. The dictionary definition of awareness is knowledge and understanding that something is happening or exists. And as Kabat-Zinn says, awareness functions as an open, spacious mirror, empty and full, able to contain anything and needing nothing to complete itself. So mindfulness is about being awake to your experience, your thoughts, your emotions, your body sensations. Mindfulness helps us bring our awareness to the present moment, where we are not distracted by ruminations from the past or worries about the future. I love this quote by Eckhart Tolle, who's a spiritual teacher. And he says, the power for creating a better future is contained in the present moment. You create a good future by creating a good present. So what are some of the benefits of mindfulness? Well, when we practice mindfulness, we have increased focus and attention stability, increase in emotional regulation, greater empathy and self-compassion, higher sense of body awareness, improvement in our sleep, and better mental health and well-being. It also reduces our stress level, our anxiety, and depression. There is a growing body of research across the scientific community, and some of the most noteworthy research is being done by a scientist named Richie Davidson, who's a psychology and psychiatry professor at the University of Wisconsin, where he's also director and founder of the Healthy Minds Center. And this research is showing that when we practice mindfulness, it's a form of mental training. And if we practice on a consistent basis, we are retraining our brain to focus on the present moment. We are creating new neural pathways. Our brain wiring is not fixed, it is adaptable. And this is known as neuroplasticity. Mindfulness is a practice. It's like learning an instrument or working out at the gym, but rather than lifting weights to build up your biceps, you can think of it as lifting weights for your brain. The breath. The breath is always with us. And when we bring our awareness to our breath, we are allowing the breath to regulate our emotions rather than letting our emotions regulate our breath. I don't know if you've ever experienced this sense of anxiety where you try to breathe, but you can't get a deep breath. When we learn to practice mindfulness, we cultivate this ability to let the breath trigger a relaxation response. It anchors our attention to the present moment. I like to use the analogy of a boat on the water. So think of yourself as the boat and the water as life. Sometimes the water is calm, and the boat is just hanging out. Sometimes there's a lot of turbulence and the boat is being pushed and pulled. The anchor that keeps the boat in place is the breath. So we can use our breath as our anchor to stabilize our attention, to increase our awareness, to connect to our bodies. So I'd like to lead you in a short mindfulness meditation. So I invite you to find a relaxed, comfortable position. And if you feel comfortable, you can gently close your eyes. If you'd rather not, that's totally fine. Just put your gaze downward so that you can relax the area around your eyes. If you're sitting, you want to have your body in a position that's both relaxed and alert. So you're not slumped over where you may fall asleep, but you're not too rigid where it's uncomfortable. You can just allow your hands to rest wherever they're comfortable. And take a few deep breaths. Again, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Inhaling again and out through the mouth. Just allow your shoulders to drop down and away from your ears, letting gravity pull your body down, noticing its connection to whatever is beneath you and supporting you. Relaxing any areas of tightness or tension. We hold so much in our body. So just letting your facial muscles soften, loosening your jaw, and just noticing any sensations you may be feeling throughout your body. Perhaps there's warmth or coolness or vibration or pressure. Just being aware of the sensations and breathing naturally. Notice where you feel the breath in the body. Often it's in the rise and fall of the chest or the belly or at the tip of your nostrils. Breathing normally, see if you can place your attention on the feeling of the breath as it comes in and out, one breath at a time. Just resting your attention on the in and out of the breath. On an in-breath, bringing in a sense of spaciousness and ease. And on the out-breath, noticing a softening, a sense of relaxation, letting go of anything that is not serving you in this moment. As you do this, you might notice that your mind begins to wander and you're thinking about other things. If this happens, it is not a problem. It's very natural. If you get lost in a thought, simply notice that your mind has wandered and just bring your attention back to the breath. This noticing and bringing your awareness back to the breath, that is the muscle we are building. It may happen many, many times, and that's okay. You can always begin again. Just taking a moment to thank yourself for arriving in this body with this breath, in this community. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes and give yourself a few moments to Just tune back into your surroundings. Okay, welcome back. That is a taste of mindfulness. So some of you may be familiar with this very powerful quote by Viktor Frankl, who was a psychiatrist and wrote an incredible book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our freedom. The very essence of mindfulness is the ability to pause and bring our awareness to the present moment so we can choose wisely. Mindfulness is about creating that space. Space to think, space to breathe. When we practice mindfulness, we're taking ourselves off of autopilot and we're practicing the art of creating this space. That space may be between a moment of anger and our lashing out. It may be space between a moment of joy and noticing how it feels in our body, how it feels in our heart. When we take the time to pay attention and bring our awareness to that space, we may see beauty where we didn't notice it before. We may see growth and transformation and change where before we may have felt incapable of seeing those possibilities. So the acronym STOP. This is a tool that I often share with clients, and it gives us some direction for when we take a mindful pause. In the time it takes to take a breath in and out, we gain perspective. We remind ourselves that the anger about our kids' laundry thrown on the floor is not serving us. We realize that the person who just cut us off in traffic did not do it as a personal attack. So if you find yourself triggered by some negative emotion, you may say, okay, stop. Stop what you're doing. T, take a breath or two. O, observe. What sensations am I feeling in my body? What emotions are coming up? What thoughts am I having? And then proceed in a way that serves you well. What am I needing right now in this moment? Taking a pause to let the mind rest in the present moment is one of life's great luxuries. And this luxury doesn't cost a thing. It's available to all of us, anytime, anywhere. Literally, mindfulness can be practiced anywhere. You can practice mindfulness while doing the dishes, thinking about the sensation of the warm water and the soap as it comes across your hand, or the movement as you scrub the pots. While brushing your teeth, again, what is the flavor that I'm noticing? And what about the sensation on my teeth? Chocolate, mindfully eating, slowly thinking about the flavor. Drinking a cup of tea. So I have a challenge for you, and I'm wondering if you think about your day ahead, can you pick one activity where you'll bring a mindful awareness and do it with your full attention? If anyone wants to enter some thoughts into the chat box, that would be great. Caroline, I'm going to ask for you to read them aloud because I can't see the chat box in my presenter view, but I'd love to hear if there's anyone who is up to the challenge to think about what activity they may bring some mindful awareness to as their day moves forward. Anybody entering anything in the chat box?
Yes, I plan to take a long walk and be mindful of the breeze on my skin.
Beautiful, beautiful. Great.
I plan to do movement. Will you be able to provide your slideshow for us in a PDF format so we can send it out with the recording? People are asking about that.
I definitely would be happy to, yes.
Okay. Smelling coffee before drinking it, eating lunch and really tasting it. I have a practice, a gratitude practice, which is very ritualistic at times. We'll bring mindful of gratitude that I am feeling.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank
I
you.
plan to walk my dog and be mindful of all her movements.
Great, great. I love it.
Lots of coffee sippers, sipping coffee, looking out the window at trees, and I'm going to enjoy my evening walk.
Terrific. Great. Well, thank you for sharing. I am going to bring more mindful awareness to my dog, walking my dog today too. I like that. That's a good one. So mindfulness can also bring our awareness to what kind of life do we want for ourselves. And as one of our teachers, those of us who studied in the Whole Being Institute's SIP program in the first number of years, Tal Ben-Shahar said that at every moment in your life you have a choice, and all those moments add up to a lifetime. I was very struck by that comment, because it really explains that all you have to do is become mindful that you have a choice, right? So an informed choice is not a reflex or a reaction. An informed choice is a deliberate, thoughtful decision made with awareness of the circumstances. And that is what a mindful pause can help us do. So mindfulness is really this concept that connects awareness and self-regulation with conscious decision-making. Again, what kind of life do you want for yourself? So awareness nugget number one, being in the present moment is the happiest and healthiest place to be. Life today, in this moment, holds many questions. We know that. And if we have ever known it, today is now. Today is when we know it. That there is so much uncertainty in front of us, and that can cause us to vacillate from one extreme emotion, like stress and resentment, to the other extreme, with gratitude and joy, in the span of a day, of an hour, maybe even a minute. Recent research conducted by Barbara Fredrickson and her team at the Positive Emotions and Psychophysiology Lab at UNC Chapel Hill found that the most resilient people have a capacity to acknowledge negative emotions and simultaneously experience the positive ones. So it's this awareness that I may be feeling angry or fearful or sad, and not pushing it away or denying it, but holding the space to accept whatever it is that we are feeling, synchronized with or simultaneously with the gratitude we may feel, the inspiration, connection, hope that we may feel. So bringing an awareness to any of those negative emotions actually can minimize its power. When negative emotions take a hold of us, that can sometimes put us into a loop where our mind is racing. And that often happens with anxiety. So a simple awareness and acceptance of what we're feeling can help us feel more calm, more forgiving, and more resilient. I recently have been working on an article about sleep and circadian rhythms and how mindfulness can help us with our sleep. And I had the good fortune of interviewing Dr. Judd Brewer, who's a neuroscientist and a psychiatrist and director of research at Brown University's Mindfulness Center. A lot of his research focuses on anxiety. And he said something that I found so fascinating. He said that awareness is the bigger, better offer. So awareness, he says, helps us see how unrewarding anxiety is, and that it feels better to be aware of worrying rather than worry itself. Once you have an awareness, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling afraid, I'm worried, you can use curiosity to notice the way that you're feeling. So Dr. Brewer recommends mindfulness to help his patients shift their mental energy from feeding these mental habit loops to noticing the sensations of the breath or the physical sensations in the body. So awareness nugget number 2, recognize that both positive and negative emotions are real. First, we have to notice some of those positive moments, and we know that good things happen every day. We just sometimes need to bring our awareness to them. And another one of my teachers, Maria Serra, has a tool that I love and use often. And it is simply making a practice of asking the question, what was the best moment of your day? When you do that each day, you realize several things. First, that even on the darkest, most difficult, challenging of days, there is a best moment. You begin to look for best moments. So you start to nurture this sense of awareness. Is that the best moment? Was that cup of coffee the best moment? Was that beautiful sun on my skin the best moment? No, wait a minute. I think the text I got from my child who just said, I love you, mom or dad, that was the best moment. So you start looking for best moments. And as you make a practice out of it, you shift your brain chemistry so that it starts, again, to look for best moments. We can also plan our days so that we have moments and experiences that bring us meaning and pleasure by prioritizing positivity. In the SIP program, we call these positivity boosters, which are behaviors and activities that are proven to improve our mood. This is the fuel that sustains us. And answering the questions, what are the things you look forward to? What relationships make you smile? What hobbies do you enjoy? What do you do deliberately when you're not feeling so great and you want to feel better? What music do you listen to? Who could you call to get a boost? And each of us has our own positivity booster list. I ask my clients to make their positivity booster list and to put it on their phone. And when they may be having a moment, a period, a day where they need a reminder of what can lift them, they refer to their list. And it could be taking a bubble bath, spending time in nature, dancing, anything that brings you positive emotion. So Thornton Wilder wrote, we can only be said to be alive in those moments when our hearts are conscious of our treasures. So just taking a moment to think about what treasures is your heart conscious of in this moment. Awareness nugget number 3, focus on the good. So some of you may be familiar with the Harvard Grant study. I know that I have heard it mentioned on some of the lunch and learns here with the JCC and WBI. But the Grant study, for those of you who don't know, is a longitudinal study on human development that Harvard conducted starting in 1936 with 268 male sophomores. So this study has been going on for more than 7 decades. For 42 years, the lead researcher on this grant study was psychiatrist George Valent. And he came away with a 5-word conclusion. Happiness is love, full stop. We know from the grant study and additional research that spending time with people we care about and who care about us is the #1 predictor of happiness. Social connections are key to our well-being, and it's quality more than quantity. Putting time and effort into our relationships, that's where awareness comes in. Are we investing in something so critical to our well-being? Some questions perhaps to raise awareness are: who are the people that you can count on? With whom can you truly be yourself in both painful and joyous moments? And how do you nurture these relationships? Are you able to focus on the good? Do you express your gratitude? And are you really listening? Being there for someone involves the ability to listen. When we are having a conversation, we're often looking at someone in the eye, but rather than listen actively or mindfully, we're often thinking of how are we going to respond? Or we may be judging what the other person is saying, or thinking of the amazing yogurt and granola that we had for breakfast, or the preparations we have to do for the meeting that's coming up. The key to mindful listening is simply to notice when your mind begins to wander. Just like when we were doing a mindfulness meditation, when you notice that your mind has began to wander, just bringing it back, in this case, to the speaker. Sometimes it's not just about listening per se, but rather bringing awareness to something another person may need. And that may just be your presence and your attention. Caren, who is a well-known meditation teacher, says that a moment of paying attention to someone can often switch a glimmer of self-worth in another who seems completely bereft. This sense of connection is what fosters empathy. The ability to consider and understand another's thoughts, behaviors, or ideas. And practicing empathy goes far in nurturing the relationships in your life. So the importance of being aware, and again, of investing in our social connections. Awareness nugget number 4, nurture your social connections and be present. So some of you may know the Joshua Bell Metro story, but I'm going to tell it to you for those of you who don't know. So this gentleman who is standing right beside the arrow, he walked into a metro station in Washington, D.C. On a cold January morning during rush hour. And he took out his violin and he started to play. And he played 6 Bach pieces for about 45 minutes. And during that time, since it was rush hour, it was calculated that over 1,000 people went through the station. 3 minutes went by and a middle-aged man noticed his pace and stopped for a few seconds and then hurried up to meet his schedule. A minute later, the violinist received his first $1 tip from a woman who threw the money in his case without even stopping. She continued to walk. A few minutes later, someone leaned against the wall to actually listen, but after a couple of minutes looked at his watch and started to walk again. The one who paid the most attention was a 3-year-old boy. He stopped to listen to the music, and his mother tugged him along, hurried, but the kid stopped to look at the violinist. He struggled because he wanted to listen. In the 45 minutes the musician played, only 6 people stopped and stayed for a little while. About 20 gave him money but continued to walk at their normal pace. He collected $32. When he finished playing, silence took over. No one noticed he'd stopped, and no one applauded. No one knew that the violinist was Joshua Bell, one of the best musicians in the world. He was playing one of the most intricate pieces ever written with a violin worth $3.5 million. 2 days before playing in the Metro, Joshua Bell had sold out at a theater in Boston where the average seat was $100. This is a real story, and Joshua Bell playing incognito in the Metro station was organized by the Washington Post as part of a social experiment. And it raises several questions. In a commonplace environment, do we perceive beauty? And if so, do we stop to appreciate it? One of the possible conclusions is if we don't have a moment to stop to listen to one of the best musicians in the world playing some of the finest music ever written with one of the most valuable instruments ever made, how many other things are we missing as we rush through life? When we pay attention, when we bring our awareness and see the beauty, we are savoring moments, which is one of the most important ingredients of happiness. Savoring makes us more joyful and more optimistic and strengthens our relationships. And it boosts our psychological immune system, helping us cope with stress and trauma and negative experiences. So again, this pause to savor. So we know from loads of research that there is enormous power in simply counting our blessings. And I know some of you mentioned that in the chat room. Again, to savor the moments that we appreciate. Many people have a gratitude practice where they'll write in a journal about 3 things from that day for which they feel grateful and how each of those things made them feel. It's all, keeping a gratitude journal and having a gratitude practice makes for a very beneficial resource to turn to on a day when maybe feeling grateful is harder to access. I've been keeping a gratitude journal for about 5 years, and one of my favorite things to do is to go back into the journal and several years ago and look at the things that I felt grateful for, and it really gives me a boost. So expressing gratitude also strengthens our relationships, but sometimes our expressions of thanks can be fleeting and superficial. This is a photo of my Aunt Yvonne. My aunt who is now 91, this is about 10 years ago, in her apartment in Riverdale. And bringing gratitude to a person who's had a positive impact on your life, but maybe you've never really properly thanked them, is an extremely powerful exercise. So asking yourself, is there a person in my life, a mentor, a teacher, a relative, or friend who has impacted my life in good ways, but perhaps I never really expressed it to them? You can write a letter to express gratitude in a thoughtful, deliberate way, and ideally deliver the letter and read it to that person. I heard a story about a woman who moved to this country from Mexico 25 years ago. She did not speak English, and she made her way to the library and found a children's room. And in that children's room, she went each day, and one of the librarians would give her children's books to help her learn to speak English. 20 years later, she found that librarian and sent her a letter of gratitude. One never knows the power until they are both the recipient and one who is the giver, one who expresses the gratitude. It's very powerful. Awareness nugget number 5, savor the moments and the people for which you are grateful. So, there are a lot of doors on this slide, and that is for the purpose of talking about our character strengths. So when we practice, cultivate, and apply our character strengths, we perform better across all dimensions of our lives. We get more out of work, our relationships, and our achievements, and we become our best versions of ourselves. And we can use our strengths to navigate life's challenges. First, we need to be aware of the strengths that we possess. So one source is the VIA Character Strengths Survey, which is a free assessment that ranks our top 24 character strengths. In addition to the VIA Strengths Survey, you can simply think about those words that describe you when you're at your best. So for example, when I'm at my best, am I curious, persistent, loving, compassionate, a good listener, accepting, patient, focused, kind, a team player, open-minded? The list goes on and on. You can create your own list of strength and think before you enter your house or apartment, a meeting, a school, or get on a phone call. Before you turn the doorknob and walk through a virtual doorway, you can pause and take a breath and ask yourself, which strengths do I want to bring in as I enter this room, this conversation, this situation? How do I want to show up? This mindful pause will enable you to take yourself off of autopilot and think about what you want to bring in with you so you can show up as your best possible self. Awareness nugget number 6, be mindful of your strengths and how you choose to show up. So in this part of the presentation, I really want to talk about self-care and remind everyone that self-care is not selfish. In fact, you can't effectively take care of other people if you don't take care of yourself. So we know about those airline safety instructions. I hope to one day soon feel safe enough to hear those airline safety instructions, but those instructions are to put on your oxygen mask first so you can then help others in need or your children after. And yet, many of us struggle with the notion of self-care and are unable to bring awareness to what we need, both emotionally and physically. So compassion literally means to suffer with. And it's our ability to recognize when someone is in emotional pain and initiating a desire to help. That is compassion. Self-compassion is exactly that, but it's offering that warm and understanding attitude to ourselves rather than judging or criticizing ourselves, which we're so good at doing. Much of the research has been done by Dr. Kristen Neff, and she suggests that people who have more self-compassion lead healthier, more productive lives than those who are self-critical. She talks about the 3 elements of self-compassion and this wonderful tool, which is to take a self-compassion break. So the first element is mindfulness. It's an awareness of what you're feeling in this moment. I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling afraid, I'm feeling anxious, whatever it is. Number 2 is this common humanity, knowing that difficulties are a part of life and I am not alone. We all struggle at different times. And the third element is self-kindness, offering ourselves a gesture, perhaps putting your hand over your heart, or a phrase to comfort yourself. What do I need right now? Maybe I need to connect with someone, or spend some time in nature, or sipping a hot cup of tea. So it's these 3 elements, mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness, that teach us how to be kind and honor our humanness. Tal Ben-Shahar always used to say, permission to be human. Give yourself permission to be human, which is to be imperfect. So the next time you feel the urge to be hard on yourself for something you've said or done or feel, this tool can offer you a gentler, kinder response to treat yourself with as much care as you would treat someone you love who's in emotional pain. So moving on to the physical, the importance of movement. Martha Graham, the choreographer and dancer, wrote that all that is important in this one moment is movement. Make the moment important, vital and worth living. Do not let it slip away unnoticed and unused. Movement is medicine for your emotional and physical health. And the American Psychological Association literally now includes exercise as a proven treatment for depression. We know that exercise generates endorphins and which are our body's natural painkillers, relieving stress and pain and often making us feel more calm and happier. So knowing, what does my body need? Physical exercise is so much more than just staying in shape. It enhances our mental health and lowers our cholesterol and boosts our immunity. Nourishment, right? Good nutrition is an important part of leading a healthy lifestyle. Being aware of how your body feels. Am I feeling energetic? Am I feeling sluggish? Is it different after a healthy meal versus a less healthy one, or after eating junk food? I had the wonderful experience of spending a week on a silent retreat where the food was vegetarian, beautiful, home-prepared bounty by a few chefs and many of the people who came to the retreat. And at each meal, I would sit, and there was no conversation, obviously, on this silent retreat. We were not meant either to look in one another's eyes. And so I would sit 3 meals a day, and I would look at the food on my plate. I would count the colors. I would taste the food in a way that was mindful and slow. And it changed the experience, bringing an awareness to what I was nourishing my body with. Rest, knowing when we need rest, is part of self-care. So the National Sleep Foundation recommends 7 to 9 hours of sleep for adults, but only 42% of Americans 42% of Americans report getting less than 7 hours. So nearly half the population is getting less than what is recommended. Getting 8 hours of sleep will bring you more vitality, optimism, and good health. And there's also a lot of research that shows that using mindfulness, both breathing exercises or scanning the body for physical sensations that you may be feeling in that moment, can be very helpful for relaxing both the body and mind and improving our sleep. So awareness nugget number 7, be kinder to and take care of yourself. Researchers at MIT discovered this behavioral loop at the core of our habits. Cue, routine, reward. And one of the most common loops goes like this. Cue, boredom. Routine, pull out your smartphone. Reward, a few minutes of empty stimulation. So maybe the next time you feel triggered by the boredom cue, you can take a mindful pause and leave your phone where it is and consciously choose a reward that contributes to your well-being. Maybe striking up a conversation with a stranger or simply noticing things around you and bringing an awareness to the present moment. Giving yourself the gift of more time is a quick and convenient way to a happier life. And as author Anne Lamott famously said, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Awareness nugget number 8, put down your smartphone. So as we know, this is an inside job. You've mastered the selfie, maybe. Now master the self. Using the tools of mindfulness to bring awareness to the present moment will help you and remind you that at every moment, indeed, you do have a choice. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Caren. Wow, that is very comprehensive. Everyone, I know that Caren has a special offer. So if you have a gift that you're creating, it's not quite created yet. And if you want to sign up for her mailing list or go to her website, I'll give it to put it in the chat right now. You're welcome to do so. We had a very interesting question that I think it would be, I know we're out of time, but I thought it would be a wonderful one for you to answer, because it's where sometimes people get confused, both about mindfulness and also about positivity. And that was, hang on one second. How do you balance realism and optimism? I feel like when I'm a Pollyanna, it can feel inauthentic, even if I know those positive thoughts serve me well.
Well, that's a great question. Interestingly, Phoebe sent me an article yesterday that was in the Washington Post, which was about positivity and almost toxic positivity, which is how it was referred to. I don't really love the word toxic in the same sentence as positivity, but I think it's the importance of knowing what's real. As I mentioned, both the good and the bad, but being overly optimistic, if that's your true nature, as long as you're not denying and pushing away negative emotions, it's okay. Some of us are blessed to be born with that set point of optimism. And if that's who you are, that's okay. As long as you're not telling people not to feel the negative emotions. Or when you say to somebody, oh, you don't need to be stressed, or don't stress, or, this is going to be wonderful. That's somehow denying or negating and not validating what someone who may be feeling negativity or anxiety or stress is actually feeling. So sort of, a fine balance.
Amazing. And I couldn't have said it better. Just to remind everybody that mindfulness-based stress meditation is available at the JCC. So you can take the course that Caren was recommending. And actually in the fall, we will be having a book group that will be reviewing Sharon Salzberg's new book. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, we hope to have Richie Davison back at the JCC. He's amazing. And you referenced all of those folks, and they're some of my personal heroes. So it was really fun for me today, both to spend time with you, as I mentioned earlier on the call. I know Caren personally, so this was really a treat for us to be able to share this time together, and also to get to witness and experience your brilliance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caren.
Everyone, have an amazing day. I, for one, might do a little mindful eating with some chocolate.
I do it every day.
All right. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We'll see you next week. There's an exciting Lunch and Learn series that we're going to be having next week. Would you like to know who's going to be in the house? Next Tuesday is Laurel Burns, and she's going to be talking about anxiety, helping both teens and adults cope with that. And Thursday is embracing the whole positive emotions during crisis with Dr. Nancy Kirshner. An exciting week, and very important as we think about going into fall, going back to school. Even if you're not going back to school, for me, that's always the time where I feel like I have to get back into action. Anybody else? So we're going to be preparing for that. So please join us. And once again, Caren, thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye.